Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the AFI Project. Today, we're going to be talking about a little movie you might have seen called Titanic. This was directed by James Cameron, who also directed Terminator 1 and 2, the only Terminator movies that truly count, True Lies, and Avatar. And even though the story is a work of fiction, it is based around the greatest maritime disaster of all time, the sinking of the RMS Titanic. You all know what that is, I am more than certain. But while the Titanic sinking was very much real, there is a fictional side to this, and the fictional story goes that a young man named Jack, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, wins a ticket onto the Titanic to take him back to America. And while he is on there, he meets a young socialite named Rose, played by Kate Winslet. Even though they come from very different backgrounds, the two grow a friendship for each other, which grows into a kinship, and they both fall in love. And then the Titanic hits the iceberg, and literally all hell breaks loose. Usually I try to go into some kind of production history or like little tidbits about the making of this movie, but I honestly feel like it's not really necessary, because just by walking up to someone and saying Titanic, someone will go, "Oh, the movie." Because this movie was literally seen by everyone with a pulse, especially from like 97 up to now. It not only pulled a Return of the King and won all of the Academy Awards it was nominated for, including Best Picture, but it was also, for a time, the highest grossing movie of all time, before James Cameron said, "Never tell me the odds," and did it again with Avatar. Pondering about this movie and thinking about it over the past couple of days, I was a part of the crowd that just kind of was ambivalent towards this movie. I didn't necessarily hate it. I remember watching it, but I was like, okay, it's Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet on a boat. What's the big deal? But then one late night, I watched it for like the first time in a really long time. It was a night where I couldn't sleep, and so I was like, Titanic's on, I'll watch it. And I was hooked. I am more than willing to hear arguments about how maybe this movie is overrated for one reason or another, and in some cases I might agree. But I have to give this movie props in that it is an amazing achievement from a filmmaking standpoint and a story standpoint. It's just an achievement all around. Firstly, I have to give props to James Cameron. Nowadays, it just seems like he just spends all his time at the bottom of the ocean filming like fish documentaries, and when he's not doing that, he's talking about how the Avatar sequels he is possibly making are going to just blow everyone's minds. Though I'll probably be a father by the time the sequel comes out. But once upon a time, James Cameron was the very best at what he did. He made relatively simple movies, like, you're probably not going to get like a deep, like, clinical essay on Terminator 2 Judgment Day. But in terms of just filmmaking in general, James Cameron did him like no one else was doing at the time. And as much as it is talked about, Terminator 2 was a prime aspect of that. A sequel to the first Terminator was already at a disadvantage, but not only did that movie be better than the first Terminator, but is often seen as one of the greatest action movies ever made. You walk up to a stranger and say, T2, and they'll go like, dun 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 dun. Quite seriously though, James Cameron for a time was just working at the top of his game. And even if you disagree with the story bits, Titanic is just an amazing work of filmmaking. Cameron blends CGI with practical effects in a way that is kind of a lost art nowadays. When you see someone walking on the deck of the Titanic, or like the Titanic actually sinking, there's a part of you that goes, okay, some of this is CGI, but a lot of it is also very real. I imagine it would have been so easy for James Cameron to be like, just CGI it, we'll fix the rest in post. But no, that's not what happened. He built like a massive life-size replica of the Titanic and sank it. And say what you will about the man, but I give him nothing but props for that. And this movie is very much divided into two halves. The first half being all the lovey-dovey romance stuff, and the second half being a horror movie. I'll talk about that one in a bit. But first I want to talk about the character-based stuff, specifically the romance between Jack and Rose. Now that I'm older and a little bit more mature, I actually like the chemistry between these two. Maybe it's because I respect both of these actors a lot, especially DiCaprio, but they just feel right with each other. There's definitely some over-the-top stuff, like when Leonardo goes I'm the king of the world, and all of that stuff. And yeah, to me, that's a little cringe. But there's also these little moments between the two that are just fantastic. My favorite scene between the two is the draw me like one of your French girls scene. No, not just because of, that part, but it's just a really nice scene. It's shot very well. There's no real dialogue, and it works. It really works. And then the movie is chugging along just fine, and then when you hear iceberg right ahead, yeah, things take a turn for the worst. The actual sinking of the Titanic, in many ways, is more disturbing to me than, most of the horror movies I've ever watched. And I've watched a lot of horror movies, and there are some of them where I could just walk out of there and just be kind of blasé about it. Yeah, that was cool and all, but, I'm just, shake that off. Not so with Titanic. Because, wow, there are some heavy moments here. Probably the moment that gets me the most is when the Titanic is up like this, and it's just about to snap in half, and then the electricity goes out. It's like and then boo. Every time I see that moment, the inner Doctor Strange in me goes, we're in the end game now. And the rest of this movie is just pain. It just is nothing but pain. There is not an easy moment to sit through in that second half of the movie. From the bigger moments like the ship actually breaking in half, to the smaller moments like Billy Zane grabbing a kid and getting into one of the lifeboats, because Billy Zane is just a complete and total twat in this movie. This whole second half of the movie is not a no-win situation, it is a must-lose situation. People are going to die, and we are bearing witness to it. And yeah, it's not fun at all. But I feel like I really shouldn't say any more than that, because this movie really should be experienced. And as cliche as that sounds, if you haven't seen this movie, I do highly recommend that you just watch it for yourself. Don't just take my word for it saying, oh, it's a great movie. Go watch it for yourself. At the end of the day, I can certainly listen to any argument about how this movie could be construed as overrated, but I have nothing but respect for Titanic from a filmmaking standpoint, because James Cameron took, a massive lump of clay and he made a Michelangelo out of it. And no matter what he does in his career, I'll give him nothing but props for that. But that is all for me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time on the AFI Project, we're going to be taking a hard left, going from epic disaster movies to a smaller indie movie about a couple of guys just riding their bikes across America. It's 1969's Easy Rider. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.